Risc is a consumer behaviour and trends consultancy. What does that actually mean? Over the last 25 years, we've been studying and analysing consumer behaviour in more than 50 countries around the world. We've talked to over 1.5 million people and developed an incredible base of knowledge studying changes in consumer attitude and behaviour over this period of time. So why do our client companies, the multinationals or the global companies, come to us? Let me give you a few concrete examples. Today, the type of questions that clients ask us are, how are consumers behaving in this time of crisis? How will they behave tomorrow? How can I keep my market share or increase my market share while spending less? What will my market look like when the crisis is over? What will be the structure of the demand? These are the type of questions that client companies are asking us today. Tomorrow, of course, the questions will be different, but our database allows us to actually formulate hypotheses, test them, and actually give pertinent answers to these questions, both today and the questions that will come tomorrow. So essentially, how do we do that? What's important to know is that every year we will actually study consumers in between 10 and 20 countries, so that's over 35,000 consumers, and we will ask them over 500 questions. We want to know everything about the way they live, the society in which they live, and the way they consume. This allows us to build up a comprehensive body of knowledge over time and over geographies, which allows us to make transnational comparisons and comparisons over time. So how does this make us different from other business consultancies? Well, it's exactly this fact base that makes the difference. We work as a normal business consultancy, dealing with business questions, business hypotheses, looking for the elements that are necessary in building a business strategy. However, our consumer database allows us to test these strategic options within the database and actually see what the impact would be on a consumer market space. In this way, we're actually supporting more informed business decision making. Well, essentially our consulting teams are based in Paris and Geneva. We have a 50-strong team, multicultural, over 15 nationalities, but we work with international companies. So I think it's fair to say that we're based wherever our client has a problem that they need solved. Which are the most important technology trends in the next 5 years? Difficult to choose one more than another. We could talk about cloud computing, we could talk about RFID or sensor technologies, we could talk about mobile internet. What's interesting to ask is how will consumers respond to these technological evolutions over the coming years, and in what way that's going to impact market structure. Has technological evolution slowed down? I can't say I've seen any evidence of that, and on the other hand I've seen a lot of evidence of the acceleration of adoption of technologies. We have a number of data points over a number of countries over the last few years that are showing an increased enthusiasm for technology and increased integration of technology in consumers' lives. So I would expect this consumer demand to actually accelerate technological evolution. What influence does social networking have on marketing strategy? It's an interesting question, but I think the more interesting question to ask is what is driving the adoption of social networking. Social networking is a phenomenon like another. What we want to do is understand what are the drivers behind this, therefore we will understand what drivers of future behaviour and can adopt a strategy long-term to future behavioural changes. So how would we compare consumer evolution in BRIC countries to mature countries? I think what's interesting in that is, in that particular question, is the use of the word comparison. A few years ago it would have been impossible to compare consumers in the BRIC, i.e. Brazil, Russia, India and China, the BRIC markets with the mature countries. What we can see is there is a very fast acceleration of consumption maturity in these countries. We've been able to track this maturation process, and we can assert today that there are certain segments of the population that can quite realistically be compared to consumers in the developed markets. Now, obviously, this isn't to say that you can directly compare the whole of the BRIC markets with the mature markets, but we do see comparable consumption behavior in certain segments of the population. How are consumers' attitude changing to health and wellness? Well, I think one of the things that's important to look at is that consumers are becoming much more in control. They are more informed, they're more aware. They're aware of the effect that products have on their health. They're starting to be more concerned about the origins of products. They're aware of their environment. And therefore, there is a more proactive attitude to managing health and to illness prevention rather than an attitude to curing existing illnesses. This is very important because this means that health is actually slipping into all aspects of consumption, and it can be as broad-ranging as concerning the food that we eat, to the car that we purchase, to the paint that we might actually put on the walls of our house. How have recent events affected our consumption habits? I think that's one of the questions that we get asked most often today. Obviously, the recent events in terms of the economic crisis are having a catalyzing effect on a certain number of existing trends. We've noticed over the last few years that there is the emergence of a number of trends. These trends are regarding health, they're regarding well-being, they're regarding selective consumption. Now, the trends existed before the crisis, but the crisis is having the effect of catalyzing or crystallizing these trends and actually bringing them together in a concept that we call positive consumption. This is the desire of the consumer to make a real difference through his consumption habits on a daily basis. It's his way of reconciling the paradox or the contradiction between you have to buy more to stimulate the economy, but you have to buy less because you're going to destroy the planet. The consumer has to find the way through, and he's doing this through positive consumption.